this is Blackstar from Blackstar Productions, and here we are for the Rampancy podcast, Anger, Sadness, and Envy, episode number 17. We're going to be covering E3 2010 and how it relates to Reach. We've got a couple of videos we're going to show people and explain all the different aspects that we were interested in talking about. And we'd like to bring back Narc, who was sick last time. He's going to be jumping in with the podcast again. Say hi, Narcogen.
Hi, Narcogen.
And we also have Miguel Chavez from Bungie Sightings, who's in. Cody Miller, unfortunately, will not be joining us today. He was busy, so we're going to have to talk about him behind his back. Narcogen, you had some elements you wanted to talk about the new demo Reach video that they played at E3.
Right, at E3, actually, we've had two new videos come out for Halo Reach. One of them was a demo they did of the campaign mode that ended with a big revelation, and the other one was kind of a montage of clips from the new Firefight 2.0 mode. I think first we'll look at the campaign demo that was introduced by Mark Lito at E3. Take a look at what that shows us. Bungie has talked a little bit about Halo Reach being kind of a darker story. I mean, we know from the end, we know the beginning. From the beginning, you know the end. This is a battle that ends poorly for UNSC forces. The original scenario for Halo 1 was that the Master Chief was the sole surviving Spartan, and here we're in a group of Spartans. We don't know what's going to happen to them. Are they going to die? Are they going to escape? Meg, you brought up, I think now we're just starting to see the video. We're starting to see a group of Spartans, the Noble 6 team, come in on a winged vehicle, and you had some comments here about the quality of the animations and the motion capture.
Yes, I'd like to say that one thing that definitely has improved and I think has injected quite a bit of immersiveness into the game is the motion capture of the characters, and it's the smoothness and the realism. Even as the assassination moves later on, I think it pays off in spades. I don't know what they did, whether they just got better equipment or they were able to improve the engine to finesse more details, but it really has paid off, and I have to say kudos to them.
Yeah, the body movements that actually are very much counterpointing also with the environments. It was very much immersive. I mean, even from the moment you got in, I had flashes from Halo 1 and the Silent Cartographer days on the beach. And this is definitely far, far more detailed. It really brings you to the environment. You see these epic vistas. Unfortunately, you actually don't get a chance to hang around them too long because they want to focus on the combat.
The player here is pretty resolute in running right through this encounter, even though there's an awful lot to look at. And the first thing you notice, of course, is the return of the original Halo 1 Covenant dropship, the Spirit, this kind of tuning fork-looking thing.
And the Elites is the main enemy that you were battling in.
But they're kind of bulkier, nastier Halo Wars type Elites. They seem to me at least always to be a lot bigger.
Yeah, they've been playing around with the armor styles and the body type. I think grunts also seem a little bigger too. I don't know whether it's because your character is shorter than the Master Chief that you used to play at. Definitely fantastic.
And the level does play off like a beginner. See all the new bells and whistles.
Introduce each enemy type. Give you a chance to look at what's coming in on you. Jackals. I think all you have in this open scene is elites, jackals, and grunts. And then you come up to the sequence where you come up behind a red elite, which I think is not only reminiscent of that first elite encounter in Halo 1 where you don't have a weapon. You're just supposed to kind of back away from the guy and he backs into a room. But here, you're actually armed and there's an assassination event there. And there's a comment from one of the other Spartans. She says, beautiful, which I thought was very indicative of the different kind of tone this game is going to have. It's not the same kind of tongue-in-cheek, joking remark that you would get from other Marines who are commenting on, you know, a good shot that you've made or on stealing your kill, well, all of which were kind of very lighthearted. This is kind of a very serious, taking a kind of perverse joy in a killing move that you've made, which I think is something different than we're used to seeing. But then the last big revelation, right, is that you're going through this facility and you come up on this vehicle called the Saber. I suppose maybe it's supposed to be some kind of experimental prototype of something. It's obviously of some special value. They tell you that you need to get in it before the Covenant are going to ruin it. I'm not sure why they would ruin this vehicle as opposed to anything else that's in the game, but supposedly there's some special value with this, at least for some portion of the game, is going to be playable. And so we see kind of a third person behind the vehicle view of engaging in a space battle, which is something that we've never seen before. It was kind of talked about for Halo 2, where on the first level Cairo Station you'd be able to aim and fire the MAC gun, and that never happened. So maybe Bungie is finally making good on putting some space combat into the game. Yeah, my concern was that it would be a little arcadey in the sense that the difference between the real behavior of a spacecraft is greater than the difference between, say, the behavior of a real Jeep and the behavior of an in-game Warthog, where the Warthog's behaviors are kind of exaggerated, but they're based on real things. I mean, it slides around more than it should, and it flips more easily than it should, but sliding and slipping are still both things that real ground vehicles do, whereas this looks like it's going to behave like a plane, even though there's no atmosphere. The only engines that we see are on the back, and yet it seems to move side to side very quickly. I don't know.
Well, it's not to worry too much because it is supposedly only for one level anyway. But yeah, the vehicle itself, yeah, you definitely get it's more of an arcadish flight sim as opposed to a arcadish representation of what actual space battles is. You see the behavior of it, and it's not asteroids. It's definitely more so towards air combat.
The Banshee was the vehicle that was that ultra physics, being able to move left, right, up and down and so on. And now they're trying to. It seems like we're supposed to not consider the fact that this particular vehicle doesn't have any sort of side thrusters or so on and so forth, and yet it's going to be even more exciting than an actual Banshee battle. And I think we're going to just supposed to treat it just like kind of an arcadey moment where run and gun and kill things up in space. And if you've looked at some of the other videos where the HUD is visible, it is quite busy. But like you say, Blackstar, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a significant portion of the game, and maybe just enough to satisfy folks who are into this kind of thing. So
yeah, it's definitely a plus having it be there. I mean, them obviously wanted to delve into new different things, and obviously they wanted to try it to see how it was. I'm definitely sure that if it wasn't fun and they didn't like it, Bungie wouldn't have kept it in. I'm sure it being one level, they probably would have cut it, and cut it a lot earlier than now.
We know that Bungie registered Bungie Aerospace and a logo and that, so maybe we're looking at that. Even though Bungie will be supposedly leaving the Halo IP behind and will be doing other independent projects on different platforms,
this will be a hint of the future.
I'm assuming that they're retaining rights to the Halo engine code that they've got, and so the fact that they're adding in a space combat aspect to Halo Reach, maybe it's indicative of what they intend to do next. I would always love to see Bungie do a game like Starglider, do an open world space flight simulator with combat aspects. I'd love to see them do something like that.
That would be neat.
It'd be nice to see them do something that's a complete departure.
Well, as long as they don't do bowling on the Wii, I'll be happy. Yeah, as far as the space combat goes, I did get some flashbacks of Battlestar Galactica, either the old one or the new one, take your pick. It definitely was interesting enough for me to say, ooh, that might be fun. It caught my attention, and I am looking forward to actually playing it, even though it does seem to have a little bit more arcadiness and a little less real-world flight sim type stuff. It is definitely not, Falcon 4.0. You definitely don't have to read a manual and figure out the landing gear on this thing. So I don't think it's going to be any different than any other vehicle in Halo, which has always been incredibly simple as far as its mechanics and its maneuverability, where you're flying the camera and the vehicle follows. So I don't think it's going to be any less fun than any other vehicle that they've done.
Before we move on to the next chapter, we do apologize for Cody, because he did say he wanted to comment on how arcadey is actually a positive thing, and we apologize to all those folks out there who actually do feel just like Cody, but since he's not here, sorry.
Well, I don't know, and obviously it was just one sentence he wrote, so I don't know if he's talking about not being too realistic, or if he's talking about punishing difficulty and asking you for money. Because we know that Cody doesn't have any problem with punishing difficulty.
Right.
I was talking more about into how loose the approximation is of what you'd expect from a real life behavior. And for instance, for me, I think actually it has partly to do with whether it's a human vehicle or a Covenant vehicle. I think that you kind of give the Banshee. I still think the Banshee in the first game was the best, and that the Halo 2 and Halo 3 Banshees aren't as much fun. But even the kind of push-button aerobatics that you get in the Halo 2 and Halo 3 Banshees is almost forgivable in the sense that it's alien technology. We don't know how it does what it does, and if it seems to be breaking the rules of physics, you can almost give it a pass.
So the next section up, the next video we want to take a look at is one covering Firefight, which is the other great advancement that Bungie has announced over at the Reach E3 demo, where you actually get a chance to see Firefight in action and actually get a chance to experience a lot of the advancements that they've been putting into this stuff, especially as far as the realm of customization, which was a major complaint that a lot of the players had with the original Firefight that was introduced in ODST.
The two biggest problems with the old Firefight was that it had no predetermined endpoint, right? It just went on forever until you finally lost all of your lives, and that made it very, very difficult to arrange for games because you couldn't have people drop in and drop out. You had to start a game, and you had to stick with the people who were in it. And the other thing that people complained about was that it didn't have matchmaking, so that you had to have people on your friends list who were going to play the game with you. You couldn't just come in and get randoms added to your game. So they're going to be fixing both of those. They're going to let you customize the game's objectives and the behavior of units in terms of setting time limits on various rounds, setting what kind of enemies you get in each of the rounds and each of the waves, and also matchmaking, which I think is going to be a big challenge for Bungie, especially given that you don't really suddenly know what kind of behavior you're going to get from players when you get put into a Firefight playlist. I wonder how they're going to handle team killing.
Now, Mig, you had actually mentioned something before about whether or not that this would have been a great handoff in expanding future titles when they handed this off to 343 Industries, because this is being listed as the last Bungie-influenced Halo title. And if that's the case, then anyone that takes over this afterwards got some serious shoes to fill as far as keeping Bungie fans and Halo fans interested in future content and future game types, and to make sure that they don't end up beating the horse to death. What were your ideas on that, Meg?
Well, I think it was just an optimistic a view of seeing this as a way to hand off to the fine folks at 343 the possibility of them taking this and continuing and adding on extra maps and adding new characters and new types of gameplay and so on. And hopefully this doesn't, something this rich and this full of potential doesn't just simply die on the vine, and instead fostered and allowed to continue. Who really knows what 343 is going to do and what their contractual limits are, or budget, what they're able to actually do. When I see this and I see all the features and all the openness which is being shown, there's a chance here that it could be very easily given to expansion. It would be a shame if it's just kind of a one-off, and then after a few years, Xbox Live support for it drops, and we're done with it.
Okay, about Firefight, this is actually where you get a chance to see a bit more of an eclectic view of the particular aliens that you normally, I guess, would be introduced first in campaign. So you get a chance to see a lot of the different armor styles, a lot of the different characters that you've been familiar with before, but they definitely look different. I think, Narcogen, you had some ideas as far as how the aliens look more alien or a little bit weirder than usual, or at least what Bungie fans and Halo fans have been used to in playing the games for the past 8-9 years.
Right, well, the first shot we get of an enemy in this Firefight video is a gold elite, and I have to admit, you only see him for about a second, and I really had to go back and look at it a couple times. But later you do see some definite brutes. You also see the new Jackal variation, the skirmisher. We see some grunts that have different equipment. It looks like different kinds of tanks, possibly jetpacks. We see jetpack elites are back with a different kind of suit. I have to admit, looks pretty good. And we also see the Hunter, which is a little modified.
Awesome. Meg, what are your final thoughts?
I'm enjoying the short and sweet podcasts, and don't mind the unabridged ones too. I'm hoping folks there enjoy it too, and please send us comments.
Well, thanks very much for everybody for joining in tonight, hopefully, or today, depending on where you are. Hopefully, for the next podcast, we might actually have one a bit longer. We've actually recorded a lot of material tonight, so we'll see what Narc can cook up. I'd like to thank Narc and Miguel for joining us tonight, and if anybody else has any particular interest or anything that you'd like to hear on in the future, please feel free to let us know over at rampancy.net. Narcogen and my emails are both there. Feel free to jump in. Anybody else have anything to say before we go?
That's it. See you later.
That's it. Thank you. Have a good one.